Filming of the series began at Leavesden Studios, Hertfordshire, England, in September 2000 and ended in December 2010, with post-production on the final film lasting until summer 2011. Leavesden Studios was the main base for filming Harry Potter, and it opened to the public as a studio tour in 2012, renamed as Warner Bros. Studios, Leavesden. David Heyman produced all the films in the series with his production company Heyday Films, while David Barron joined the series as an executive producer on Chamber of Secrets and Goblet of Fire. Barron was later appointed producer on the last 4 films. Chris Columbus was an executive producer on the first 2 films alongside Mark Radcliffe and Michael Bonatton. But he became a producer on the 3rd film alongside Heyman and Radcliffe. Other executive producers include Tanya Seghachian and Lionel Wigram. J.K. Rowling, author of the series, was asked to become a producer on Goblet of Fire but declined. She subsequently accepted the role on the 2-part Deathly Hallows. Heyday Films and Columbus's company 1492 Pictures collaborated with Duncan Henderson Productions in 2001, Miracle Productions in 2002, and Pioffa Productions in 2004. Even though Prisoner of Azkaban was the final film produced by 1492 Pictures, Heyday Films continued with the franchise and collaborated with Patelake's Ivy Productions in 2005. The 6th film in the series, Half-Blood Prince, was the most expensive film to produce as of 2009. Warner Bros. Split the 7th and final novel in the series, Deathly Hallows, into 2 cinematic parts. The 2 parts were filmed back-to-back from early 2009 to summer 2010. With the completion of reshoots taking place on the 21st of December 2010. This marked the end of filming Harry Potter. Heyman stated that Deathly Hallows was shot as 1 film, but released in 2 feature-length parts. Tim Burke, the visual effects supervisor of the series, said of the production on Harry Potter, "It was this huge family. I think there were over 700 people working at Leavesden. An industry in itself." David Heyman said, "When the first film opened, no way did I think we'd make 8 films. That didn't seem feasible until after we'd done the 4th. Nisha Pati, the production consultant on the first film, said that Heyman made the first film very much the way he felt the studio Warner Bros. Wanted to make it. After the film's success, Heyman was given more freedom. One of the aims of the filmmakers from the beginning of production was to develop the maturity of the films." Chris Columbus stated, "We realized that these movies would get progressively darker. Again, we didn't know how dark, but we realized that as the kids get older, the movies get a little edgier and darker." This transpired with the succeeding 3 directors who would work on the series in the following years. With the films beginning to deal with issues such as death, betrayal, prejudice, and political corruption as the series developed narratively and thematically. Directors. After Chris Columbus had finished working on Harry Potter and the Philosopher's Stone, he was hired to direct the 2nd film, Harry Potter and the Chamber of Secrets. The production started within a week after the release of the first film. Columbus was set to direct all entries in the series, but he did not want to return for the 3rd film, Harry Potter and the Prisoner of Azkaban, claiming he was burned out. He moved to the position of producer, while Alfonso Cuarón was approached for the role of director. He was initially nervous about directing the installment since he had not read any of the books or seen the films. After reading the series, he changed his mind and signed on to direct since he had immediately connected to the story. David Yates directed 4 of the films in the series, including the 2-part finale Deathly Hallows. Because Cuarón decided not to direct the 4th installment, Harry Potter and the Goblet of Fire, a new director had to be selected. Mike Newell was chosen to direct the film. But he declined to direct the next film, Harry Potter and the Order of the Phoenix, which was given to David Yates, who also directed Harry Potter and the Half-Blood Prince and Harry Potter and the Deathly Hallows, becoming the only director to helm more than one film since Chris Columbus. Chris Columbus said his vision of the first two films was of a golden storybook, an old-fashioned look, while Alfonso Cuarón changed the visual tone of the series, desaturated the color palette, and expanded the landscape around Hogwarts. Mike Newell decided to direct the fourth film as a paranoid thriller, while David Yates wanted to bring a sense of jeopardy and character to the world. Cuarón, Newell, and Yates have said that their challenge was striking a balance between making the films according to their individual vision, while working within a cinematic world already established by Columbus. David Heyman commented on the generosity of the directors by revealing that Chris spent time with Alfonso, Alfonso spent time with Mike, and Mike spent time with David, showing him an early cut of the film, talking through what it means to be a director and how they went about making the films. David Heyman also said, "I suppose Chris Columbus was the most conservative choice from the studio's point of view, but he expressed real passion." Producer Tanya Seghachian said they were more adventurous in choosing a director for the third film and went straight to Alfonso Cuarón. Mike Newell became the first British director of the series when he was chosen for the fourth film. Newell was considered to direct the first film before he dropped out. David Yates directed the final films after David Heyman thought him capable of handling the edgy, emotional, and political material of the later novels. All the directors have been supportive of each other. Chris Columbus praised the character development in the films, while Alfonso Cuarón admired the quiet poetry of David Yates' films. Mike Newell noted that each director had a different heroism, and David Yates views the first four films respectfully and enjoys them. Daniel Radcliffe said Yates took the charm of the films that Chris made and the visual flair of everything that Alfonso did, and the thoroughly British, bombastic nature of the film directed by Mike Newell, and added his own sense of realism. Scripts. A studio model of Hogwarts. It is the main setting in the series. The castle features in every novel and screen adaptation. Steve Kloves wrote the screenplays for all but the fifth film, which was penned by Michael Goldenberg. Kloves had direct assistance from J.K. Rowling, though she allowed him what he described as tremendous elbow room. Rowling asked Kloves to remain faithful to the spirit of the books, thus, the plot and tone of each film and its corresponding book are virtually the same, albeit with some changes and omissions for purposes of cinematic style, time, and budget constraints. Michael Goldenberg also received input from Rowling during his adaptation of the fifth novel. Goldenberg was originally considered to adapt the first novel before the studio chose Kloves. In a 2010 interview, David Heyman briefly explained the book-to-film transition. He commented on Rowling's involvement in the series, stating that she understood that books and films are different, and was the best support a producer could have. Rowling had overall approval on the scripts, which were viewed and discussed by the director and the producers. Heyman also said that Kloves was the key voice in the process of adapting the novels and that certain aspects from the books needed to have been excluded from the scripts due to the filmmakers' decision to keep the main focus on Harry's journey as a character, which would ultimately give the films a defined structure. Heyman mentioned that some fans don't necessarily understand the adaptation process, and that the filmmakers would have loved to have everything from the books in the films, but noted that it was Not possible since they had neither time nor cinematic structure to do so. He finished by saying that adapting a novel to the screen is a really considered process. Because the films were being made as the novels were being published, the filmmakers had no idea of the story's outcome until the release of the final novel in 2007. Kloves spoke of his relationship with Rowling when adapting the novels by saying, "The thing is about Jo, which is remarkable for someone who had no experience with the filmmaking process, was her intuition. We had a conversation the very first day I met her where she said, 'I know the movies can't be the books. Because I know what's coming and it's impossible to fully dramatize on screen what I'm going to write. But I just ask you to be true to the characters. That's all I care about,'" Kloves also said. "I don't know what compelled me to say this to Rowling, but I said, 'I've just got to warn you, my favorite character is not Harry. My favorite character is Hermione. And I think for some weird reason, from that moment on, she sort of trusted me.'"